Crime has always had its own economy, one that runs parallel to the legitimate world, driven by power, secrecy, and the relentless pursuit of wealth. From Prohibition-era bootleggers to international drug lords, some figures have accumulated fortunes so vast they rivaled those of corporate tycoons. Their stories blur the line between myth and history, and their empires reshape the criminal landscape forever. Here's a countdown of the 10 richest gangsters of all time, measured not just in money but in influence, audacity, and legacy. 10. Frank Lucas, $52 million. Frank Lucas built an empire from Harlem streets during the 1960s and 70s by doing something few dared: cutting out the middleman. Instead of relying on traditional drug routes, Lucas smuggled heroin directly from Southeast Asia using American military planes returning from Vietnam. His blue magic product flooded New York, earning him tens of millions in profit and transforming him into one of the most powerful men in the city's underworld. At the height of his reign, Lucas was earning around $1 million a day. His lavish lifestyle, mink coats, diamonds, and nightclubs made him both admired and envied. But the same visibility that made him infamous also led to his downfall. When authorities finally caught up with him, he had amassed an estimated $52 million in assets, hidden across bank accounts and real estate. Lucas's rise and fall became the stuff of legend, immortalized in popular culture as a cautionary tale about ambition without limits. 9. Jose Figueroa Agosto, $100 million. Jose Figueroa Agosto, known as Junior Capsula, ruled the Caribbean drug trade in the 1990s and early 2000s. Operating primarily out of Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, he controlled cocaine routes from Colombia to the United States with ruthless precision. Unlike many traffickers, Figueroa Agosto maintained a low profile for years, avoiding the spotlight and investing heavily in legitimate businesses as fronts for his operations. His network was vast, his reach international, and his wealth staggering, an estimated $100 million by the time of his capture. When he was finally arrested after more than a decade on the run, authorities discovered luxury properties, high-end cars, and secret accounts that painted a picture of excess and paranoia. Agosto's empire was built on secrecy, but in the end, it was his inability to stay invisible that brought it crashing down. 8. Meyer Lansky, $300 million. Meyer Lansky was the quiet architect behind much of America's organized crime. Known as the mob's accountant, Lansky's genius wasn't in muscle, but in money. He helped shape the National Crime Syndicate, a network that linked major mafia families across the United States and was instrumental in establishing gambling operations from Las Vegas to Havana. While others reveled in violence, Lansky understood finance. He laundered criminal profits through offshore accounts long before it became a mainstream concept. By the 1950s, his control over casino and betting operations had turned him into a multimillionaire many times over. At his peak, Lansky's wealth was estimated at $300 million, though much of it was hidden so effectively that authorities never found the majority of his fortune. Despite being investigated for decades, Lansky died a free man in Miami Beach in 1983, quietly and comfortably. The ultimate businessman of organized crime. 7. Anthony Tony Accardo, $400 million. Anthony Accardo, known by nicknames like Joe Batters and Big Tuna, was the epitome of the disciplined mob boss. Rising from street enforcer in the Chicago outfit during Al Capone's era to its undisputed leader, Accardo transformed the syndicate into a corporate-style empire. Accardo understood longevity. While many mobsters lived fast and died young, he lived strategically, diversifying the outfit's interests into legitimate ventures. Under his guidance, the Chicago outfit moved beyond bootlegging into gambling, labor unions, and loan sharking, all while maintaining a code of discretion. By the time of his death in 1992, Accardo's estimated fortune was $400 million, a figure built on decades of quiet power. He was one of the few mob bosses to live into old age without serving long prison terms or dying violently, a testament to his cautious intelligence and understanding of the criminal world. 6. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, $1 billion. Joaquin Guzman, better known as El Chapo, is one of the most infamous drug lords of modern times. As the head of Mexico's Sinaloa cartel, he transformed it into the world's largest drug trafficking organization, smuggling massive quantities of cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine into the United States. El Chapo's power was built on logistics and intimidation. His cartel controlled entire regions of Mexico and operated like a multinational corporation with armed branches, accountants, and international suppliers. At his height, Guzman's personal fortune exceeded $1 billion, making him one of the richest criminals ever listed on Forbes. His repeated escapes from high-security prisons added to his mythic reputation, though his final capture and extradition to the U.S. marked the end of his reign. Today, El Chapo's empire may have fractured, but his legacy remains one of staggering ambition and ultimate downfall. 5. Al Capone, $1.3 billion. When people picture a gangster, they often picture Al Capone. During America's Prohibition era, Capone became the symbol of both glamour and violence, ruling Chicago's underworld through bootlegging, gambling, and racketeering. At his peak in the 1920s, Capone's empire was earning over $100 million annually, a sum that, adjusted for inflation, places his net worth at roughly $1.3 billion. His control over speakeasies, breweries, and nightclubs made him one of the most powerful men in America, and he wielded that power without hesitation. Yet for all his influence, Capone's downfall came not through bullets but bookkeeping. Convicted of tax evasion in 1931, he spent years in Alcatraz before retiring quietly due to illness. Despite his criminal record, he remains one of the most enduring figures in American folklore, a paradox of brutality and charisma. 4. Griselda Blanco, $2 billion. Known as the cocaine godmother, Griselda Blanco built an empire of fear and fortune during the 1970s and 80s. Operating out of Miami, she was a key figure in the rise of the Colombian drug trade, controlling distribution networks that flooded the U.S. with cocaine. Blanco was ruthless, strategic, and entirely without mercy. She pioneered many of the smuggling routes later used by the Medellin and Cali cartels, and she treated her empire like a dynasty, commanding both loyalty and terror. Her estimated fortune at its height was $2 billion, accumulated through years of dominance in the cocaine market. Despite numerous arrests and eventual imprisonment, Blanco's influence persisted long after her incarceration. Her life, marked by wealth, violence, and notoriety, remains one of the most dramatic stories in the criminal world. 3. Carlos Lader, $2.7 billion. A founding member of the Medellin cartel, Carlos Lader was both visionary and volatile. He revolutionized the cocaine trade by introducing large-scale air trafficking, using private planes to move drugs from Colombia to the Bahamas and then to the United States. Lader's innovation was his greatest weapon. By purchasing an entire island, Norman's Cay, he turned it into a hub for smuggling operations, capable of sending thousands of kilos of cocaine northward each month. His partnership with Pablo Escobar made him one of the most powerful traffickers of his time. At his peak, Lader's fortune was estimated at $2.7 billion, built on efficiency and audacity. But his paranoia and unpredictability led to his downfall, as fellow cartel members turned against him. Still, his influence reshaped the logistics of the global drug trade forever. 2. Pablo Escobar, $30 billion. Few names evoke the extremes of wealth and violence like Pablo Escobar. As the founder of the Medellin cartel, Escobar controlled the majority of the world's cocaine supply during the 1980s. His operation was so vast that he earned an estimated $30 billion at his peak, a sum that placed him among the richest men on earth. Escobar's empire stretched across continents. He owned private jets, fleets of cars, luxury estates, and even his own zoo. His cartel was reportedly bringing in over $400 million a week, and he spent fortunes building homes, neighborhoods, and even soccer fields for Colombia's poor, which earned him a twisted form of hero worship. Yet his reign of terror, marked by assassinations, bombings, and political corruption, turned Colombia into a war zone. When Escobar was finally killed by police in 1993, his wealth and legend outlived him, leaving behind one of the most complex legacies in criminal history. 1. Amado Carrillo Fuentes, $45 billion. At the top of the list stands Amado Carrillo Fuentes, known as El Señor de los Cielos, the Lord of the Skies. His nickname came from his fleet of private jets used to transport massive quantities of cocaine from Mexico to the United States throughout the 1980s and 90s. Carrillo Fuentes rose through the ranks of the Juarez cartel, transforming it into a transnational powerhouse. His strategy was scale, using dozens of aircraft and a sophisticated laundering network to move and protect his fortune. By the time of his death in 1997, his net worth was estimated at $45 billion, making him not only the richest gangster of all time, but one of the wealthiest criminals in history. In a final act of irony, Carrillo died during plastic surgery meant to alter his appearance and evade capture. His empire dissolved soon after, but his legend as the man who turned the sky into a highway for narcotics remains unparalleled. Crime at its highest level operates like business, with hierarchy, logistics, and profit margins. But unlike legitimate enterprise, it is built on secrecy and fear. In the end, most of these fortunes disappeared as quickly as they were made, swallowed by law enforcement or hidden in offshore accounts that may never be found. Yet their stories endure because they reveal something timeless about power and greed, the human desire to dominate, no matter the rules. For all their riches, every one of these gangsters discovered that, in the world of crime, time, like wealth, eventually runs out.